On his first day in office. This as there's more speculation about who's going to fill the remaining cabinet positions in his administration.
So how are Americans feeling about Mr. Trump 2 weeks after the election? We have a brand new CNN national poll, and it gives us an interesting snapshot. Not surprisingly, the nation is still divided. A narrow majority of Americans, 53%, believe that Donald Trump will do a good job as commander-in-chief. 44% disagree.
Americans are also split on whether Trump's handling of the presidential transition so far has been good. 46% approve, 45% disapprove. About a third of Americans have a lot of confidence in Trump's picks for his top appointments, which are lacking diversity so far.
Only 33% of Americans have a lot of confidence in the president-elect's ability to provide leadership. That is historically low compared with other modern-day presidents before they took office.
Conference from Donald Trump, but he did release that video that you mentioned outlining what he'll do in the first 100 days of office and what executive actions he'll take. All this while speculation continues to swirl about who will be making up his cabinet, and just within the past 10 minutes he tweeted, "Great meetings will take place at Trump Tower concerning the formation of people who will run the country for the next 8 years. President-elect Donald Trump outlining what he intends to accomplish during his first 100 days in office, including a pledge to create jobs.
On trade, I am going to issue our notification of intent to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I will cancel job-killing restrictions on the production of American energy, including shale energy and clean coal, creating many millions of high-paying jobs.
And end corruption in Washington.
As part of our plan to drain the swamp, we will impose a 5-year ban on executive officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government.
But in a 2.5-minute video, Trump steering clear of some of his most controversial and biggest campaign promises, like building a wall on the Mexico border, repealing Obamacare, placing a ban on Muslims entering the United States, and no mention of deportations.
On immigration, I will direct the Department of Labor to investigate all abuses of visa programs that undercut the American worker.
This as Trump continues to parade cabinet and senior staff hopefuls past cameras again. Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard slipping past cameras to meet with Trump. She's the second Democrat Trump has spoken with since the election. Gabbard is now under consideration for top jobs at the Defense Department, State Department, and the United Nations, according to a source. Trump also taking time to meet with executives and anchors from 5 television networks, including CNN, to address concerns about access.
It was an off-the-record meeting. It was very cordial, very productive, genial, but it was also very candid and very honest.
Meanwhile, Trump's team on the defensive, civil rights groups urging the president-elect to denounce the alt-right after white nationalists were captured on video cheering the president-elect in Washington.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
And capitalizing on Trump's Make America Great Again slogan.
For us as Europeans, it is only normal again when we are great again.
Racism and anti-Semitism on full display, audience members giving a Nazi salute. Without denouncing the alt-right by name, Trump's transition team said in a statement, President-elect Trump has continued to denounce racism of any kind, and he was elected because he will be a leader for every American. And Trump's critics still not satisfied with that statement, still not satisfied in part because, Chris, they are upset with Steve Bannon being his chief strategist. As you know, Bannon, the founder of Breitbart, Bannon made it very clear that Breitbart was a platform for the alt-right. And on a separate note, I want to talk about Trump's relationship with the press. He's had a tense relationship with the press, as you know. That's part of the reason why he had that meeting yesterday with members of the media. Well, he's been tweeting again this morning about the media, specifically this time the New York Times Times. 3 tweets that we counted so far just within the past 15 minutes. First saying apparently he had some sort of an interview set up with the Times, and that went south. That interview no longer happening, at least not for now. He tweeted, "I canceled today's meeting with failing New York Times when conditions of meeting were changed." Quote, "Not nice." Then he tweeted again that perhaps a new meeting would be scheduled, but that they cover him in a, quote, "nasty tone." Then following it up with a third tweet saying the New York Times just announced that complaints against them are at a 15-year high. I know that a number of people might be looking at that and saying, why is a president-elect continuing to go after the media this way? But I have to say, throughout the campaign, we watched him go after the media, and his supporters love it. Chris?
He is who he is, Jason Carroll, just like the rest of us. And in that third tweet, very interestingly, he says that the Times just reported that they are at a 15-year all-time high of receiving complaints. And then he says, but why announce it? Because one of the Trump rules is you never announce bad information. So let's discuss what's going on with the transition with CNN political commentator and former New York City Council Speaker Christine Quinn and CNN political commentator, talk radio host, and Donald Trump supporter John Phillips. Now, sometimes I laugh when Trump does certain things because I enjoy how he plays the game of politics, and because it is a dirty game. But one of the things that does not make me laugh, John, and makes me scratch my head is this. If something bothers Donald Trump, you know it immediately and in detail. And yet, these hand-raising haters, these neo-Nazis, you call them alt-right, call them whatever you want. You know who they are, John. You know what they're about, and you know it's bad. He does not denounce them the way he does anything and anyone else that he doesn't like. Why? Tell me why.
Well, one of the unfortunate aspects of having a two-party system in this country is you're going to have huge tents on each side, and unfortunately those huge tents involve a lot of nuts. And the left has a lot of people with a lot of boutique ideas on their side. In Europe, all these people would have their own parties. And he did say, look, I want no part of these people. He did denounce them. In fact, if you go back to 2000 when he was thinking about running for the presidency under the Reform Party banner, he said, look, I don't want any part of them because I think David Duke it was part of that party at the time, and he said, I can't put my name on this. So he has denounced them. He has done it repeatedly, and unfortunately, you can't choose all of your supporters, and these jerks are proving that case.
But John, hold on a second, Chris, because this isn't a point of debate. This is just fact. John, you know that he doesn't call out David Duke by name. You know he's never mentioned any of these movements by name. And the man does not lack for detail when he wants to criticize you. Believe me, I understand that intensely, personally. Do you feel a little odd defending what is certainly wrong in this situation, John? It is wrong, not political tense. These are people raising their hands in a Nazi gesture, okay? This isn't just a little bit off the beaten path, and yet it's being ignored to a certain degree by a lack of specificity. It doesn't bother you. Why?
Well, he has denounced them. He's denounced them
not by name.
And his political
not by
opponents.
name. He shows them a respect. He shows no one else.
We know the political game that his opponents try to use against him, which is they want Trump's name in the same headline as these kooks.
Look, they're saying, hail Donald Trump, John. It's not about me. I wish I would never have to talk about these people. They're saying his name. You don't think that he would come out and denounce them the way he does anybody? He'll denounce the New York Times by name.
Or the cast of Hamilton.
You know, he'll come after them.
I'll do it right now. They're kooks. They're racist.
I know, but I didn't vote. You know, but you didn't get voted in as president. All right, let's talk about the agenda.
Can I say one thing? They're not kooks. They're a dangerous...
Yes, they are.
No, they're worse than kooks. Kooks is like your aunt you're going to see at Thanksgiving, you know what I mean? Who wears a rain hat inside to Thanksgiving dinner. These people aren't kooks. They're a dangerous, racist, anti-Semitic group of people who are attacking the core values of America. And you had to go back 16 years to find any reference to Donald Trump mentioning David Duke. He didn't say that he denounced this group for what they did. He said he denounced racism. Completely different. This is serious on any day of the week. It's more serious because he's the president-elect, and even more serious incidents increase across the country since his election. He has an obligation to all Americans to stand up and denounce this group, denounce David Duke in this decade, and to try to put an end to the hate escalation and the fear.
Reading it over and over and over again, he's just putting his name in the same headlines as these horrible people, and that benefits his political opponents.
It's in the headline right now. Look at the screen on CNN. Should Donald Trump denounce alt-right? This isn't about trying to avoid a headline. God knows Donald Trump loves any headline. This is about him not being willing to stand up for Americans, to stand up for people of color, people of a Jewish faith, LGBT women.
Do you believe in your heart of hearts that he's a white supremacist?
I don't know what anymore is in Donald Trump's heart of hearts.
Do you believe he's a white supremacist?
What I know is that Donald Trump had an opportunity this weekend.
Do you believe he's a white supremacist?
What I know is he has put racists in the White House, and
yes or no? Do you believe he's a white supremacist?
And he had an opportunity to denounce white supremacists.
John,
is he a white supremacist?
Why doesn't he denounce?
Let's move on to something else. But John, I'll tell you something. You think you're being clever. If these groups targeted you the way they target her and target me, you'd feel differently about it.
Absolutely.
All right? It's okay to be a white guy when you got all these other white guys raising their hand and pretending to be Nazis. Yeah, I know you want her to answer the question because then you can use it.
He's a white supremacist.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Hold on a second, because I do want to move on. There's something else to talk about this morning. But I'll tell you what. It isn't the point, because here's why. You want to get a cheap political score by having somebody call him a bigot or a racist, because that's going to go crazy in the news cycle. It's about being a leader. You denounce things not just because you're looking for a label. It doesn't matter whether or not he's a bigot. It's that he denounces it. That's what he is as the leader of all people, that he says that that's not what we're about. It's not about getting a simple escapism of saying, well, if he's not a racist, then it's all okay. It's not okay. You denounce things are wrong. That's what leaders do. Now, you looked at his new list of agenda things of what he's going to do. Is there anything in there that you don't like? Because I got to tell you, it looks like a pretty attractive list. A lot of things in there I've seen come from Obama and Clinton's mouth before.
Well, certainly I want to put very clearly that in the video, we don't have a lot of details. He's going to create all these jobs.
Not uncommon from politicians or presidents.
And a number of what I believe he's saying about energy are things that would be dreadful to the environment. I think very clearly in what he said is a move forward on fracking, which is incredibly dangerous. We've worked very hard.
I'll get beat up by the left by this, but the science is not dispositive on fracking. You have places that have done it safely. And there are a lot of jobs in the balance of it, tens of thousands of jobs.
The science is not there. What is clear is the science has not said it is never possible. But it is not there now. And all we need to do is go look in Pennsylvania, where the water still runs brown and smells clearly of chemicals. It has, I don't know of any place.
The industry says it's like everything else. You have to do it right. If you do it too much, you do it wrongly, you'll have problems.
With that, but the industry, well, one, industry is always going to say that, right? Whether they can do it is the question. And they have not shown us in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, anywhere that it can be done. But let's talk about what Donald Trump didn't reference are his appointments of people like Mr. Bannon, his appointments of people like
first 100 days. He's going to cut regulations. He's going to look at infrastructure. He's going to get out of that TPP and start his own negotiations of trade deals.
Regulations, those are two words that could be great or could be dreadful. What regulations? What's he going to...
Hirers in our economy right now, and in our poll, 40% of people trust Trump on the economy. It's the highest number any recent president has had. 43% believe he's going to change the country for the better.
I applaud Americans, I really do, for being optimistic. And I applaud Americans for saying things are going to get better. But we have, in the campaign and so far in the transition, seen no details about how he's going to create jobs. And when you cut regulations, you have to really understand what the potential collateral damage is.
Well, you don't know that he's going to cut regulations you don't like. I'm saying he's trying to do something that the business world likes.
We don't know. Well, but look, that's curious, because during the campaign, Donald Trump attacked Secretary Clinton for any reference she might have had or any thought she had of doing something that...
My repeal and replace of Obamacare, those are probably two of the biggest reasons that people voted him from a policy perspective.
And the Muslim registry.
They're not here.
Yeah. Well, he owes his victory to the Rust Belt, and trade was the way to Youngstown, Ohio. He would. That was a message that was very tailored to that part of the country. I expect to see a lot more of that in the next 4 years.
That could cause a lot of congestion. I mean, Youngstown, it might just be too much with the balloons. I'm just saying, John. Let's agree on that. Snoopy won't fit. He's too big. Come on, John, give me that. Give me that.
It's always good to end on agreement. There's certainly plenty of disagreement to go around. John Phillips, thank you for making the case. Appreciate it. Christine, as always. Allison.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Chris, a tragic story to tell you about. We have breaking news this morning from Tennessee. The driver of a school bus that crashed and killed at least 5 elementary school children Monday is now charged with vehicular homicide, and the grief-stricken community is struggling to cope with this tragedy. CNN's Martin Savage is live in Chattanooga, where school officials have just held a briefing. What have you learned, Martin?
Hello, Allison. Yeah, it's horrific news, but the authorities now are saying the official death toll is 5. 5 students that were killed in that bus crash. That would be down from what were initial reports of 6. And there are 6 children that are said to be in intensive care and 6 other children that remain hospitalized, but otherwise all the other children that were on board that bus have now been released from the hospital and reunited with their families. As you've heard probably, the district attorney has now filed charges against the 24-year-old bus driver, and that is now a thorough criminal investigation apparently that is underway. Authorities have also put in the warrants and the various court documents to get the informational boxes, I think is the term they've used. That would be any kind of video that was on board the school bus and any other kind of telemetry. The school bus driver, whose record is being investigated right now, is said to be cooperating with authorities. There was no other vehicle involved except the bus here. Weather conditions clear and dry. Speed is being looked at as a possible culprit. Chris?
Martin, this is just horrible any way you look at it. Hopefully the facts start the process of closure. We'll check back with you in a little bit. Appreciate the reporting this morning. So, the Trump transition team is going with some well-known names and a controversial one in Steve Bannon. This is a man who has said that his media outlet was a conduit for the alt-right, which is a nice way of saying a lot of groups with really ugly agendas. How will he influence the Trump administration? We have a panel debate next.